Hi there. William Wordsworth said, Your mind is the garden, your thoughts are the seeds. The harvest can either be flowers or weeds." In today's Stress Talk Live with Marceline, we are using the garden as a metaphor to share how over 40 women like you and me can nurture our mental health. And we'll be back to share those things in just one moment. Welcome, 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 ladies, and welcome to those of you who are listening via the podcast and watching via the replay. I am Marcelyn Bailey of Stress Talk Live, and I share strategies for overstressed, overwhelmed, over 40 super women. I share with them secrets, strategies to lower their stress levels and to boost their energy. Why? Because when our stress level and our energy levels are just right, we have everything that we need to meet the challenges that we face on a daily basis. Today, we're going to talk about how does your garden grow, which is to say, how over 40 women can nurture their positive mental health. I think this is a serious topic because we generally don't always talk about these things, but we're going to talk about it today specifically. During the month of June, we're going to cover gardening and how gardening can be a stress reliever for all of us. I love gardening. And my plan today was to be outside. I was going to be outside and I was going to show you what my garden looks like right now, but it started raining. It stormed right before I got on. So I couldn't get out there. But I wanted to share with you what my garden looks like and what it looks like since the pandemic. So next week, we're going to be outside. We're going to be in the green spaces because we are going to talk about how we can use gardening to keep us keep our mental health healthy. Now, I have a few announcements, and these are going to be quick announcements because I want to get into our topic. Number one, Stress Talk Live is moving to 7 p.m. We're still broadcast on Sunday, but we're going to move to 7 p.m. This is going to give you a lot of time to take care of the things that you want to take care of during the day, have a lot of fun with your family, do whatever you want to do on a Sunday, and then you can spend some time with me. Does that sound selfish? Well, if it is, it's because I love to see you and I love to have you with me during Stress Talk Live. So 7 p.m., we're going to be on the same channels, Facebook and YouTube. We're just going to move the time back to 7 p.m. The second thing is, for those of you who are a part of the Stress Talk private Facebook group, we are shutting it down. We're going to shut the private Facebook group down. I know. Why? Because one of my desires has been to build a community of like-minded, supportive women who can help each other maneuver through life's stressors. And so what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to build a community on a different platform. I'm not going to continue to use Facebook for that as a host for the private Facebook group. So I'm going to move my community to another platform. The new platform is going to allow us to have more interaction, and it's going to be more conducive to conversation and a lot of other things. So, if you are a member of the private Facebook group, I'm giving you fair warning that it's going to be shut down so that we can move the community to a different platform so we can have more meaningful interactions. And then the third thing, yeah, that's the third thing. And then the third thing is that the Smiles newsletter is going to hit your inbox. I want to say thank you and welcome to my new subscribers. I hope Smiles newsletter will meet your expectations. It will hit your inbox this week. In addition to some of the up and coming information about what's up and coming, we will also include a calendar for the month. Okay. All right. Whew, that was quick. Let's get into our main content. We're talking about today gardening. And we're using gardening as a metaphor for how the things that we need in order to take care of our mental health. We're just coming off the pandemic, and if you're like me, you're still recovering from the pandemic. Yes, it started in 2019, and this is 2022. So 3 years have passed since the onset of the pandemic. It was a scary time for many of us. We didn't know what was going to happen. We didn't know what to expect. And so because of that, a lot of us remained in fight or flight mode. Our stress hormones kept filling our bodies. It kept kicking in because of the concerns that we were facing as a result of COVID-19. What were some of those things that we were facing? Well, first of all, many of us were concerned with family members who were sick or who had become sick. Many of us had to manage getting through the death of family members and friends. And some of us are still reeling from that. We weren't able to mourn in a way that we've traditionally mourned because we weren't able to have funeral or memorial services because we weren't able to gather together. In addition to that, we were faced with shortages like we'd never known before. Were you some of the people who were looking for toilet paper? I know we were. And if we found some, we bought it. Okay, I admit it. We hoarded it. Anybody else out there? If you hoarded toilet paper and paper towels, just drop a yes in the comment section because our family did. We did not want to run out of those essentials. So not having access to material goods that we were essentials that we were accustomed to having was also a scary event for many of us. Now, the pandemic didn't start some of this high stress living that many of us were in. Some of the election of 2016, 2020, 2020, 2016 raised stress levels. And then 2020 raised stress levels. We've been living in an era where families have not been communicating because of their political beliefs. That raises our stress levels and it causes anxiety. We're living in an era where there have been mass shootings and a lot of gun violence. It raises fears. And all of that has caused many of us to be very anxious. I know I don't have to make a case for that because we're living it. The point I'm making is that although 3 years have passed, we're out of the pandemic, we are still dealing with the after effects of the pandemic and the past two elections. Not only that, we're seeing an increase in gun violence. And although we may not live where there is gun violence, it is still a concern. So there's a lot going on in our lives and around us that are causing over 40 women to carry an extreme amount of stress. And that extreme amount of stress affects our bodies as well as our emotions and in total our mental health. So, I'm going to share with you a few things that we need as it relates to gardens, using a garden metaphor that will help us to have a healthy mental health, have healthy mental health. Okay, the first thing is a foundation. And when I talk about a foundation, I'm talking about the soil in which we are growing. Plants need certain types of soil in order to grow. Different plants need different types of soil. Now, I live in a rural area, and there are a lot of farms around me. There are many farms around me. I like that. I know people who farm for a living and people who have farms as a second business and people who just have farms because they like it. They always tell me that the quality of the soil is a key ingredient that sets a firm foundation for healthy plant growth. If the soil is bad, no matter how much sun and how much water you get on your plants, they won't grow, and they won't grow in a healthy way. You need to have a rich soil that's full of quality nutrients. So, like a garden, over 40 women need to understand the type of soil that they need to grow. Okay? And when I'm talking about soil, the metaphor I'm using is the environment. The environment in which, as an over 40 woman, you need in order to thrive. We need to have an understanding of that. Now, the reality of things is we don't choose, we don't, we don't have, always have the option to pick up and move, right? However, we are told that we need to grow where we're planted. Well, as children, we don't have choice, right? We don't have a choice as to the environment that we grew up in. We do, however, have a choice as to how we understand that environment, how we relate to that environment, and how we can use what we've learned from that environment. What do I mean? What I mean is that some of us grew up in environments that were very difficult. They were difficult for children. It doesn't mean that we can't learn from those, understand that environment. And it certainly doesn't mean that we can get stuck in that environment, that we can't grow out of that environment, that we can't move on emotionally, mentally, and otherwise. Sometimes we can move out of the environment physically, but we take the stuff with us. If you find that you're taking the stuff with you to your new environment, that's when, as over 40 women, that's when we need to get help. We need to get help from an experienced therapist, experienced counselor, experienced coach to move away from those things that hamper our growth and our ability to thrive. Because that's what we want. We want to thrive. So, although we move physically to a new environment, when we take the stuff with us from the old environment that was difficult, it hampers our growth. So we can choose where we live, what we do, how we do it, and with whom when we are adults. We can also choose our actions, our reactions, and our responses to different situations and difficulties that we might face. So when we talk about a garden and we talk about the foundation, our environment, which is what I'm using the metaphor of soil. Our environment is vital. We want to be planted in an environment that will provide what we need in order to thrive. So that's number one, the foundation, which means we need to be in an environment which allows us to thrive. The next thing is nurture. We want to learn how to take good care. You always hear me at the end of every broadcast, I say, take good care. What do I mean by that? I mean taking the ish out of selfish and putting yourself first, doing those things that are nurturing, those things that will allow you to grow in a healthy manner, that will allow you to be in your environment in a healthy manner. So let's talk about a garden and plants for a moment as we continue to use our metaphor. One thing that a healthy garden needs is sunlight, right? And I'm using sunlight as a metaphor for warmth and love. As over 40 women, we need to experience warmth and love, whether that is from our family, from our friends, from colleagues, co-workers, from our neighbors, from people that we socialize with. We need to experience warmth and love. Just like sunlight is necessary for plants, it provides plants with the energy that a plant needs to produce its own food. And in return, a plant gives us oxygen so we can breathe. Over 40 women need warmth and love because that enables us to be energized. We feel good about ourselves. We feel good about the people we're around, and we present our best selves to those we encounter. Does that make sense? If so, let me know that. Put yes in the comment box. What I'm basically saying is that we need to be around people who care about us so that we can feel warmth and love. Because when we do, we feel good about ourselves and we present our best selves to those around us. I mean, think about a flower. I love lilies. So I have lilies planted in my yard. And whenever I see those lilies with their big, colorful blooms, it makes me happy. Now, those lilies with their big, beautiful blooms are beautiful, whether I'm grumpy, whether I'm in a bad mood, they are still doing what they do, showing their vibrant colors, standing tall, being, lilies. When we experience warmth and love from people who care about us, and we are energized and we feel good about ourselves, no matter who we encounter, we will still give them our best selves, just like those lilies in my front yard. Okay. Remember, we give what we get. And when we experience that warmth and love, we can share that with others. We give them our best self. So, I've talked about, for those of you who have come in later, I've talked about um, the foundation that over 40 women need in order to thrive. Number one, it's an environment that allows us to thrive. The second is we need to nurture ourselves by taking good care and being around those who give us warmth, help us to feel warm and loved. We also need refreshing. Now, just like plants, we're going to talk about gardens for a second, and then I'm going to talk about over 40 women. Water is an essential nutrient. Everything on this earth is made up of 90% water, at least 90% of water. We're made mostly water. Plants are too. So water is an essential nutrient that helps us to grow, helps us to be energized, and gives our body support, gives the plant support. We need to be refreshed. And I talk about that a lot, right? I talk about being refreshed. I heard my door, thought someone's coming in the studio. I talk about refreshing. I talk about re-energizing. I talk about renewing. We need to make sure that we have adequate refreshing, meaning we need to make sure that we have what we need. When we are adequately refreshed, our self-esteem is high. We feel confident. We feel assured. We are sure of ourselves. We feel that we're safe, stable, and secure. That's what having adequate water means, that we have all of those things. Another way of saying that is we have in place the things that Maslow spoke of in his hierarchy of needs that helps us to self-actualize, to be all that we can be, and to be our best selves. What are those things? We have food and clothing. We have security. We have love and belonging or friendship. We have esteem. And all of that leads to self-actualization so that we can be all of what we were meant to be. That's what refreshing does. That's what having adequate water does. What does adequate water also mean? It means that we're getting all of those good things, not only from the people that we are around, not only from our environment, but also from what we tell ourselves, our thoughts that lead to our feelings about ourselves. The other thing that's very important that's vital for a garden are the nutrients that your plants have. Now, nutrients in the soil are very complex. They are very complex. And it depends on what you're trying to grow. In order to help it to grow well, it needs certain nutrients, right? So, in order to figure out what your plants need, the particular plants you're growing need in order to grow well, strong, and healthy, you need to what? You need to evaluate the soil, evaluate the environment, evaluate the people who are around you. One of the things that I always say in the experience for women, the program that it's program membership, it's an experience that it's a community that I have. One of the things I always say is we want to assess ourselves first. We want to know what it is exactly that we need in order to be our best selves, or in order to thrive, in order to be healthy, in order to be whole, in order to have wellness. We need to evaluate ourselves. That includes evaluating the environment that we're in, as well as the people who are around us. And then we can make adjustments. We can make adjustments. Oftentimes, when you evaluate the soil that your plants are in, you have to adjust the pH. And the pH determines whether the soil is more alkaline or whether it's acidic. So you have to make adjustments so that you can give your nutrients what you give your plants what they need. Now, alkaline soil and acidic soil, determines how much of certain nutrients a plant will absorb. So that's why it's important to have the pH balance in such a way that the plant will get what it needs. So once you evaluate yourself and the environment, you want to make adjustments so that, and it could be small adjustments. You don't want to make big adjustments. It could be just tweaking, right? Just a small tweak. When you're making those small tweaks, you want to make them based on what aspects are vital and what aspects are important and what aspects of your life are just filler. What's vital, what's necessary for life, what's important, what supplements what's vital, and then what's filler. Things that you can take or leave, things that don't add to your life. Okay. So we're using a garden as a metaphor for how over 40 women can thrive and nurture their own mental health. Finally, social interactions. These are the people who are in our lives. And we not only want to look at the people who are in our lives, who are they? We also want to look at the quality of those interactions. What's the quality of those interactions? How meaningful are they? And that's when I say quality of interactions, how meaningful are they? Sometimes people can be just like small insects that eat the leaves or the stalks of plants. They go after little things. They just gnaw away at little things, right? They pick. They pick at you. Back in the day, we used to use the word jug. They just jug you. I don't know if anybody out there knows that word, but yeah, I know you know that word, jug. We used to say that. People just jug and pick at you. Those are like the little insects that eat away at the leaves. And you can use poison to shoo them away, or you can use something a little softer. You know, if you're an organic farmer, you use what? A little dish soap in water and just spritz those things away. That's a lot milder than using poison. Other types of people are like animals that get past your fence. And I want to show you something because we had some visitors the other day. I just want to show you these visitors. Can you see those? Those are baby armadillos, and you can actually see two of them. They are digging and playing in the mud where our air conditioning is dripping. They, those armadillos were just playing in the mud, and they walked in our yard and they had a great little time in our yard. Well, those armadillos are moochers. And although they're babies, we were assured that the mom was somewhere. Why do I call them moochers? Because they come in and they dig in our yard just like they're doing there. They dig in our yard looking for insects and grubs, and they dig up the yard and mess it up. And we don't want to we don't want to harm them. So, some of our neighbors try to trap them and take them somewhere else. Um, my husband just scared them away. He did. He just scared them away. They were probably like, "Who is this big guy?" We're little. And they just scurried away. The thing I'm saying is that there are people who, just like animals who get past your fence and they might mooch, they might take some of the vegetables that you're growing, or they're digging in your yard. They're moochers. They take what you've earned, they use of your hard work, and they take it and they use it for their benefit, whether you want them to or not, whether you're freely giving it to them or not. Other types of people are like weeds. If you've ever grown a garden, you know that there are weeds. Weeds can choke out what you grow. The more weeds you have, they just hinder and choke the growth of your plants, because that's what weeds do. And they can actually take over your garden. When we started this live session, I was told you that I wanted to show you my garden and the aftermath after the pandemic. And I wanted to show you the condition it was in, and it is overgrown, actually, with weeds. Before I can plant anything, I have to dig it out and get rid of those weeds and all of the grass that's overgrown and all. But people can be like that. They can hinder your growth and they can choke your growth to the point where you cannot thrive. So we want to be careful about the interactions and the relationships that we have with others. Now, does that mean that we have to close ourselves off in a room? No, we want to be aware of those relationships and what they do for us. And we want to make sure that we can protect ourselves so that we can thrive and grow. For those of you who are coming in late, I'm Marcelin Bailey of Stress Talk Live, and I share strategies for overstressed, over 40 women to help them lower their stress levels and boost their energy. And we are talking about, how does your garden grow? How over 40 women nurture their positive mental health. And I'm using the metaphor of a garden to illustrate the importance of nurture and how we too can nurture our mental health. The first thing that I talked about was the foundation, the soil type, as well as the quality of the soil that we're planted in. Basically, talking about the environment that we're in, not only the physical environment, but the people who are around us, the people we interact with, the socialization opportunities that we have, the interactions that we have, as well as whether we have taken from environments that have not been healthy for us, whether we've brought all of that stuff with us to the new environment. I also talked about nurture, how it's important for us to take good care, not just taking care of one aspect of ourselves, but looking at ourselves in total, so that we can not only be healthy, but we can be whole. The third thing I talked about was the nutrients, the things that we need in order to feel confident, in order to have self esteem, in order to have assurance, in order to feel safe, stable, and secure. Those are the nutrients that we need, the things that we need in order to feel those. That's as important as well. And then finally, we talked about the people in our lives and the quality of the interactions that we have. And when I talked about that, I shared with you the armadillos that got into our yard, that they didn't get into our yard. They come and go all the time and they dig in our yard. They dig in our yard. But also the relationships that are in our lives and how it's important to have relationships that encourage us to grow so that we can be like the lilies in my front yard, where no matter what we face, we can still stand tall and be who we were created to be. Whew, well, that's it. I know I'm over time a little bit. I'm so glad that you joined me today. We are going to, again, we're going to be on next Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. We're changing the time to 7 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. If you hopped in late, feel free to watch the replay on Facebook and YouTube at ML Bailey Consultants. Also, if you have any topics around stress management, or stress relief that you want me to cover, just shoot me a message. You can DM me or you can send me an email. Smiles newsletter comes out. You will have an opportunity to download a new resource that I have for you. It's called the 7 Sensational Stress Solutions. It's pretty good stuff. The link will be in the Smiles newsletter for those of you who have subscribed. Well, that's it for now. I'm Marcelyn Bailey. I'm glad you joined me. And as always, take good care.